The Discovery Commander Zex-High of the Korthek Dominion stared at the sensor readings with growing confusion. The three-eyed alien officer had served in the Dominion Navy for over 40 standard years, but he had never seen anything like this. His ship, the Severance, was on routine patrol in the disputed Vega sector when they detected the anomaly. "Sir, the readings are impossible," reported Lieutenant Vorth, his tactical officer. The young Korthek's voice carried a note of uncertainty. That was rare among their militaristic species. "The ship appears to be human in origin, but the energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Zex-High moved to the main display, his scaled hands dancing across the holographic controls. The unknown vessel hung in space like a sleeping predator, its hull gleaming with an unusual metallic sheen that seemed to absorb and reflect light in ways that defied optical physics. The ship was roughly the size of a human heavy cruiser, but its design was unlike any human vessel he had encountered. "How long since first contact with this species?" Zex-High asked his science officer, though he already knew the answer. The Korthek had been monitoring human expansion for over 2 centuries, cataloging their primitive technology and limited military capabilities. "Approximately 230 standard years, sir," replied the science officer, a elderly Korthek named Drenka. "Their technology has advanced at a predictable rate. Based on our projections, they should not possess anything like this for at least another 500 years. The commander studied the mysterious ship through the view screen. Human vessels were typically angular and functional, built for efficiency rather than elegance. This ship, however, curved and flowed like a living creature, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and change as he watched. Strange energy fields danced across its hull, creating aurora-like displays that pulsed with a rhythm that reminded him of a heartbeat. "Sir, we're detecting multiple energy sources that don't match any known propulsion or weapon systems," Vorth reported. "The ship appears to be generating power at levels that should be impossible for its size. If these readings are accurate, it's producing more energy than some of our dreadnoughts." Zex-High's third eye, located in the center of his forehead, began to glow with the blue light that indicated deep thought among his people. This was troubling news. The Korthek Dominion had maintained their position as the dominant military force in this sector of the galaxy through careful monitoring and control of emerging technologies. If humanity had somehow made a leap forward that their intelligence networks had missed, it could upset the delicate balance of power. Any response? "To our hails?" the commander asked. "None, sir. The ship appears to be in some kind of standby mode. Life support is active, and we're detecting approximately 300 life signs aboard, but they're not responding to any form of communication." The bridge fell silent as the crew contemplated the implications. The Korthek had fought the humans in several border skirmishes over the years, always emerging victorious due to their superior technology and tactics. Human ships were brave, but ultimately outmatched by Korthek engineering and firepower. This vessel, however, represented something entirely different. "Sir," Drenka spoke up, his voice carrying the weight of his years of experience, "I recommend extreme caution. If the humans have developed technology this advanced, we need to understand how they achieved it. The strategic implications for the Dominion are significant." Zex-High nodded slowly. The science officer was right. They needed intelligence, not just about the ship's capabilities, but about how humanity had managed to create something that seemed to violate several fundamental laws of physics. The energy readings alone suggested the use of technologies that the Korthek had only theorized about. "Prepare a boarding party," the commander decided. "Full tactical gear, but no aggressive actions unless fired upon. We need to know what we're dealing with." As the crew prepared for the boarding operation, Zex-High couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The humans had always been underestimated by the major powers of the galaxy. They were seen as a young, aggressive species with potential, but limited by their primitive technology and fractured political structure. If this ship was any indication, that assessment might need to be reconsidered. The boarding shuttle launched from the Severance and approached the mysterious human vessel. As they drew closer, the ship's hull began to glow with increased intensity, and new energy patterns emerged across its surface. For a moment, Zexhai wondered if they were making a mistake by approaching so boldly. "Sir, the ship is responding to our approach," reported the pilot of the boarding shuttle. "A docking bay is opening on the port side. It's almost as if the ship is inviting us aboard." Zexhai felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of military service, he had never encountered a situation quite like this. The ship was clearly aware of their presence, yet it made no threatening moves. Instead, it seemed to be welcoming them, which was somehow more unsettling than outright hostility. "Proceed with the boarding, but maintain maximum alertness," he ordered. "Something this advanced doesn't reveal itself without purpose." As the boarding party entered the alien vessel, Zexhai remained on the bridge of the Severance, watching the sensor readings with growing amazement. The ship's internal structure was unlike anything they had encountered before. The corridors seemed to shift and adapt to accommodate the boarding party, and the very walls appeared to be alive with flowing energy patterns. "Commander," came the voice of the boarding party leader over the communication system, "you need to see this. The ship's interior is beyond anything we've encountered. The technology here is not just advanced, it's revolutionary. The first." Reports from inside the ship only deepened the mystery. The boarding party described corridors that seemed to extend far beyond what the ship's external dimensions should allow, gravity systems that worked without any visible generators, and computer interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. Most disturbing of all, they encountered no resistance from the human crew, who seemed to be going about their duties as if the boarding party wasn't there. "Sir, we've made contact with the ship's captain," reported the boarding party leader. "You're not going to believe what he's told us about how this ship was built." Zexhai leaned forward in his command chair, his three eyes focused intently on the communication display. Whatever they were about to learn, he suspected it would challenge everything the Korthic thought they knew about humanity and their place in the galaxy. The impossible warship hung in space, its secrets about to be revealed, and with them, a new understanding of what humans were truly capable of when pushed to their limits. First contact, the boarding party moved through the human vessel with weapons ready but not raised, their training keeping them alert while their curiosity drove them forward. Lieutenant Kex IV, the boarding party leader, had seen action in dozens of ship-to-ship encounters, but nothing had prepared him for what he found aboard the mysterious human warship. The corridors were spacious and well lit, with walls that seemed to pulse with a soft, organic light. The air was clean and fresh, carrying a scent that reminded him of growing things, which was impossible on a military vessel in deep space. Most unsettling of all, the human crew members they encountered nodded politely and continued with their duties as if armed. Alien soldiers walking through their ship was perfectly normal. "This is Lieutenant Kex IV to Severance," he reported, through his communication device. "The humans aboard this vessel are not behaving as expected. They appear to be completely unafraid of our presence." Commander Zexhai's voice crackled back over the comm. "Explain, Lieutenant. Are they hostile?" "No, sir. They're the opposite. They seem almost welcoming. One of them even offered to show us to the bridge. Sir, I have to report that what we're seeing here doesn't match any human technology in our databases. The ship appears to be larger inside than outside, and the power systems are unlike anything we've encountered." As the boarding party made their way deeper into the ship, they passed through sections that defied easy explanation. They saw workshops where humans worked with materials that seemed to reshape themselves at will, laboratories where experiments were conducted with energy forms that their sensors couldn't properly identify, and living quarters that adjusted their size and layout based on the occupants' needs. "Sir, we're approaching the bridge," Kexver reported. "The human who's guiding us says the captain is waiting for us." The bridge of the human warship was a marvel of integrated technology and organic design. Instead of the harsh angles and metallic surfaces typical of military vessels, everything flowed together in smooth curves and natural patterns. The command stations seemed to grow from the floor like trees, and the main display showed not just tactical information, but also what appeared to be real-time data on the ship's health and mood. At the center of it all stood Captain Elena Vasquez, a woman of perhaps 40 standard years, with steel-gray hair and eyes that held depths of experience that seemed impossible for her age. She turned to greet the boarding party with a warm smile that completely disarmed their expectations. "Welcome aboard the Defiant Hope," she said in perfectly accented Corsic. "I'm Captain Vasquez. I've been expecting you." Lieutenant Kexver struggled to maintain his composure. "Captain, I am Lieutenant Kexver of the Corsic Dominion Navy. We detected your vessel and came to investigate. Your ship's capabilities appear to exceed known human technology by several centuries." Captain Vasquez nodded as if this was the most natural thing in the world. "Yes, I imagine it must seem that way. Would you like to know how we built her?" The question caught the boarding party off guard. In their experience, military commanders were typically secretive about their vessel's capabilities, especially when facing potential enemies. Captain Vasquez, however, seemed genuinely eager to share her ship's story. "I must warn you," she continued, "the explanation might challenge some of your assumptions about what's possible. We certainly challenged our own assumptions when we built her." Through his communication device, Kexver heard Commander Zexhi's voice. "Lieutenant, proceed with the interview. We need to understand what we're dealing with." "Captain Vasquez," Kexver began, "our scans indicate that your ship is generating power levels that should be impossible for its size. Our science officer believes you're utilizing technologies that won't be developed for centuries." The human captain's smile grew wider. "Your science officer is both right and wrong. The technologies we use here won't be developed through normal research and development for centuries. But we didn't develop them through normal means." She gestured to the main display, which began showing images of a small human colony under siege. The scenes were dramatic and desperate, showing human defenders fighting against overwhelming odds with primitive weapons and determination that bordered on the suicidal. "This is where it all began," Captain Vasquez explained. "New Geneva Colony. 18 months ago. We were a small research outpost, barely 3,000 souls, when the Hegemony Alliance decided we were too close to their territory. They gave us 72 hours to evacuate. The images on the display showed the arrival of a massive alien fleet, ships that dwarfed anything the colonists possessed. The colonists had 3 small cargo vessels and 1 outdated patrol ship to defend themselves against a force that could have conquered a major world. Any reasonable people would have evacuated," Captain Vasquez continued. "But we weren't reasonable people. We were scientists, engineers, farmers, and dreamers who had spent years building something beautiful on a world that nobody else wanted. We weren't about to give it up without a fight." Kexver found himself drawn into the story, despite his training. "Captain, with respect, how did you survive? The odds were impossible." "You're right, they were impossible," she agreed. "But you see, Lieutenant, humans have a peculiar relationship with impossible odds. We tend to take them personally." The display now showed the colonists working frantically in the days before the attack. They were dismantling their research equipment, their power generators, even their homes, combining everything into a desperate project that seemed to make no sense from an engineering perspective. We had Dr. Sarachan, one of the most brilliant theoretical physicists in human space. She had been working on experimental power generation, trying to harness quantum fluctuations. We had Marcus Rivera, an engineer who could make any machine work better than it was designed to. We had botanist Dr. James Park, who understood how living systems could be integrated with technology. Captain Vasquez paused, looking directly at Kexfer. And we had something else. We had 3,000 people who refused to give up, who were willing to risk everything on an idea that had never been tested. The images on the display showed the colonists working together in a way that seemed almost magical. Scientists shared theories with farmers, engineers learned from children, and everyone contributed whatever they could to the impossible project. We built this ship, Lieutenant, not with advanced technology, but with advanced cooperation. Every system aboard the Defiant Hope was created by people who understood that failure meant the end of everything they loved. We didn't follow the rules of physics because we couldn't afford to. We made the rules work for us instead. Kexfer felt his understanding of the situation shifting. Captain, are you saying that this vessel was built by colonists with primitive technology? I'm saying that this vessel was built by humans who refused to accept limitations, she replied. Dr. Chun discovered that quantum fluctuations could be stabilized through what she called coherent intention. Marcus Rivera learned that machines respond better when they're treated as partners rather than tools. Dr. Park found ways to make the ship's systems grow and adapt like living organisms. The boarding party exchanged glances. What they were hearing challenged everything they thought they knew about technology and engineering, yet the evidence was all around them. The ship worked, impossibly well, and it had been built by people who should not have been able to create anything like it. The secret, Captain Vasquez continued, isn't in the technology itself. It's in how we approached the problem. We didn't try to build a ship that could defeat the Hegemony Alliance through superior firepower. We built a ship that could win through superior humanity. Through the communication device, Commander Zexhi's voice was barely controlled. Lieutenant, I need you to get detailed technical specifications. How is this possible? Captain Vasquez must have heard the transmission because she turned toward the communication device with an amused expression. Commander, you're welcome to send your technical teams aboard. But I should warn you that understanding how the ship works might be more difficult than you expect. The Defiant Hope doesn't just run on power and programming. She runs on hope, determination, and the unshakable belief that impossible things become possible when good. People refuse to give up. As if responding to her words, the ship around them seemed to pulse with renewed energy, and Kexver could swear he felt something like joy radiating from the walls themselves. The impossible warship had revealed its first secret, and it was more incredible than anything that Korthik had imagined. Asterisk.